Well, welcome back, everyone. This is Paige Finley with FBG Live. We're glad you could join us today for the Hays County Livestock Show here in Dripping Springs, Texas at the Park Ranch. Excuse me, I always get that backwards. The Ranch Park, there we go. You're tuning in today for the Sheep Show, which is just about to get underway. We were just looking at all the classes we've got of all the shows. We probably have about 3 hours of content for you. I hope you enjoy it. Before we get rolling too deep into the program, we want to be sure and thank all of our sponsors who make all of this possible. Lots of buckle sponsors out there, lots of show sponsors out there. So thanks so much for your support of these kids, these programs, and our communities. Hope everyone enjoys the show, and do us a favor. Cheer on the kids in the chat, if you will, or drop them a line in the comment section of this program. Quick look at our buckle sponsors for the 2025 Lamb Show. Sunset Construction and Excavation, Lindsay Wright.
This will be first call for breeding lambs, first call for the breeding sheep. We have 4 entries in that class. So please be making your way to the holding pen. Breeding lambs.
Barbie Ranch, Balboa Memorial Foundation, Wimberley FFA alumni, Backyard Cowboy Buyer Group, the Steinecke family, Backyard Cowboys Buyer Group, as I mentioned, Alicia and Alan Fee, Robin's Closet, Hudson Family, the Geeson Tile, and Terry Brown. And also want to thank our show sponsors. Heart of Texas Propane, Southwest Erectors, Hays County, Texas Farm Bureau, huge supporters of the Hays County Stock Show. Republic of Texas Tailgate, Specified Water Systems, Wright Farrier Services, Bobcat of Buda, Capital Farm Credit, and Odell Excavation and Equipment. Enjoy the show, folks. Thanks for tuning in. One more thing while we've got a minute, just a reminder, coming up next is a swine show tomorrow morning. Don't hold me to it, but I believe it starts at 9 a.m. Then we've got the poultry show and the cattle show to follow on Thursday. And then, of course, the youth auction coming up on Saturday.
This will be second call for breeding lambs, breeding sheep. Please make your way to the staging area. Second call, breeding sheep. Your breeding sheep class will be entering the ring. This will be first call for Class 1 Southdowns. First call, Class 1 Southdowns. This will be second call, Class 1 Southdowns. Second call, Class 1 Southdowns. Please make your way to the staging area.
probably not the most fun class I've judged all day, because these are 4 very good sheep, very high quality, and somebody's got to be third, somebody's got to be fourth, somebody's got to be first, and somebody's got to be second. So I'm just going to describe the differences I see in them and let you know my reasoning behind it. But just know, I think those are 4 pretty high quality breeding sheep to be a part of your show. The one that surfaces for me, I think, is the best combination of just chest width and how rugged and opened up that sheep is all the way through, to then balance the way that she does, I think is a great combo. That one is not only really aggressive in her shape behind her shoulder, she's big over her loin edge, she's big in her upper hip, and still is able to get out and balance as attractively as she does. I like specifically that one's top line and how it just lays in her a bit better than some of the other ones that we come down the lineup. The one standing in 2, that's the one I gravitate towards from a structural perspective. I really like that one's balance, and her build is very good as well. Her top line, again, her hip and her rear leg, in my opinion, is the best that we have in the class. My hang up on her and why she doesn't go ahead and win, I don't know if there's just as much sheep. And when we get on a 3/4 view and compare it to our class winner, I read that one to be just a little flatter in her forerib, not near as big in her pin set, not near as dimensional from behind. But I thought her build and her attractiveness and her youthfulness from the side still warranted to go ahead and stay in that spot. The one coming in 3 is really, really stout. That one is a powerhouse, and if you get on a front 3/4 view, you're gonna like that one. She's so bold in her cage and so demanding up high, and yet still, I think that sheep still balances pretty well, but she doesn't have near the neck extension, the chest floor elevation that we see in those first 2. And then when we ask her to get out and go, I take the most issue of the first 3 with that one's hip and her rear leg structure just not being free enough when we ask her to move. If we can lengthen her out up front and keep her flat backed, I think that one could go ahead and move up a spot, because she is so square pinned and so dimensional from behind. Young man's got another nice sheep here in 4, and I think in motion is that one's best view. She clearly doesn't want to settle in, doesn't want to be a show sheep right now, but when we ask her to go, I think the front 2/3 of that sheep is very high quality, very balanced. I love her forerib, I love her shape up high. I think she's still pretty good necked. I don't think she's as tall shoulders as the one we have in second. I don't think she's as good looking and proportional in her top line and her rear leg as what we have in those first 2. Relative to the sheep right in front of her, I thought she was a little fresher in her handle, a little more youthful through the front 1/3 of her body, but we still need to keep her level in her spine. We need to use her hock just a bit better in motion. Again, a really good class of 4 of them there. Please give all those kiddos a round of applause.
This will be last call, Class 1 Southdowns. Last call, Class 1 Southdowns. Results of your breeding sheep show. 4th place, Tate Steinecke, Wimberley 4-H. 3rd place, Adeline Fee, Dripping Springs 4-H. Your 2nd place in Reserve Grand breeding sheep is Megan Hernandez from Buda 4-H Club. And your 1st place in Grand Champion breeding sheep belongs to Morgan Hernandez from Buda 4-H Club. Congratulations to everyone. This will be first call for Class 2 Southdowns. First call for Class 2 Southdowns. Class 1 Southdowns are in the ring. They range in weight from 104 to 117. 104 to 117. This will be second call, Class 2 Southdowns. Second call, Class 2 Southdowns.
An initial group of them here in our lightweight Southdowns, really a next level trio here in terms of just condition and how they handle and the width that they have to offer. Balance is going to sort our class winner though, especially from the side here. His chest floor, his flank, his underline balance is so well, and that one's still so tall fronted, great neck, really fresh up high. I like the set to that one's hip and rear leg a bit better than the two coming next. Sheep in second is really good on the handle. I like that sheep a lot for how bold she is in her forerib and cage. Really wide up front, really square going away. Relative to our class winner, she gets a little deeper in her chest, a little shorter in her hip, needs to be dropped down on her flank a bit in my mind just to help her come together with a little better look from the side. But those two are very comparable in terms of handling quality. The one coming next, I think, logically sorts there. She's the next biggest pinned, the next stoutest when we get in behind her. She doesn't have the same shape and expression as what our first two do, and she just gets a little deeper and plainer in the lower third of her body, but a good sheep there nonetheless in third. Young lady with the bow's got one I like in motion. That one collects herself good, and her top line and her feet and legs work right. A good look from the side. That sheep's just a little green, needs a little bigger pin set, a little more punch when we get in behind her. The pair coming next I thought was a little bit closer. Young lady in the blue, that sheep's just a little farther along. He just handles a little bit thicker. He's got a little more condition on him, which I think helps him blend just a little bit smoother than the one right behind him. Relative to those first ones, though, we got to get a little bit better build off either end. That sheep's a little too upright for me. And then, of course, young lady's got a really long-bodied, level-hipped one coming next. I like that one's look from the profile. Again, though, we need to lay him back in the angles of his skeleton, make that one a little bit sounder. He, too, needs just a shot more power from behind. A great class there. Please give those kids a round of applause.
This will be last call for Class 2 Southdowns. Last call, Class 2 Southdowns. Results of Class 1 Southdowns. Sixth place, Emily Johnson, Jack Hayes, FFA. Fifth place, Emily Johnson, Jack Hayes, FFA. Fourth place, Annie James Fredenberg, Dripping Springs 4-H. Third place, Gus Fredenberg, Dripping Springs 4-H. Second place, J.W. Hernandez, Buda 4-H. And your class winner out of Class 1 Southdowns, Tate Steineke, Wimberley 4-H Boosters. Congratulations, exhibitors. Class 2 Southdown should be entering the ring. We have 6 lambs in that class, ranging in weight from 122 to 144. This will be first call, Class 3 Southdowns. First call, Class 3 Southdowns. This will be last call, Class 3 Southdowns. Last call, Class 3.
I think an interesting trio on the top end of this class, and kind of the combination sheep that's going to surface. He's not problem free, and particularly out of his hip, we need to lengthen him, level him out just a little bit, and get that sheep to stretch forward just a little bit more, and I think that helps. In motion, he collects his top line just fine, and I think fits in him good, and he needs to go ahead and start because he does have the same kind of density to his skeleton, the same width and dimension down his top as what we see in the young man's third place wether, but he comes with a bit more extension and attractiveness, more like the sheep that lands in two. Really just the kind of combination sheep there. He needs to drive forward, and we need to get his hip just a little bit leveler. The one that comes in second, that's the one you like standing still here from the side. I love that one's levelness. He is so good up ahead of his shoulder. He's so shallow through his chest floor. He just reads with quality in terms of his build and look from the side. I just don't think there's enough sheep there. We get on a 3/4 view, and he's quite a bit more closed up through his pin set. Gets a bit flatter in terms of his shape to his leg. We just need to blow that sheep apart and make him even stouter because he has the right kind of balance and look from the side. Sheep in third is the opposite. That one's really stout. He's really rugged and opened up all the way through. I love his cage. I love his handling quality up high. We need to make him just a bit prettier here from the profile. He gets deeper and plainer through the lower third of his body. Gets a little bit softer on the handle than those first two. The sheep in four, I think, just logically sorts there. He's better balanced than the one right behind him, more appropriate in terms of his grow pattern than the one that rounds us out. A sheep that needs to be a little better through his chest. He needs to have a little fresher look up through his head and neck, but relative to those first three, he closely matches them in terms of just pin set and density from behind. Young man coming next has got one that's incredibly long-bodied. You certainly appreciate that one's just extension up front. We got to level him out in his top line. We get him behind that sheep, and he just has to have more width and more dimension from behind. And then the young man's going to finish us here with the 6th place ewe lamb. It's really, really moderate. She's probably a little too moderate for me, but really good in her rib cage, really thick when we get him behind her. Not quite as high cut ability as what I'd like to see her. Not quite as big in her kind. A very competitive class there. Please congratulate those kids.
This will be last call, Class 3 Southdowns. Last call, Class 3 Southdowns. Results of Class 2. 6th place, Caden Alexander, Dripping Springs 4-H. 5th place, Annie James Fredenberg, Dripping Springs 4-H. 4th place, Savannah Scott, Dripping Springs FFA. 3rd place, Bradley Peters, Dripping Springs FFA. 2nd place, Isabella Villas, Dripping Springs FFA. And your class winner out of Class 2 Southdowns, Garrett Fee, Dripping Springs 4-H. Congratulations, exhibitors. Class 3 Southdowns is entering the ring. We have 5 entries in that class, ranging from 148 pounds to 166 pounds. At the conclusion of Class 3, we will call back 1st and 2nd place lambs out of Class 1 and 2 Southdowns to join Class 3 winners for the Champion Southdown Drive. So we will need Tate Steinecke and J.W. Hernandez out of Class 1. And we will need Garrett Fee and Isabella Villas out of Class 2. Our grand champion breeding ewe buckle today was sponsored by Sunset Construction and Excavation. Our reserve champion breeding ewe buckle was furnished by Lindsay Wright. Thank you to those sponsors for furnishing those buckles for us. Your champion Southdown buckle will be furnished by Alicia and Alan Fee. And your reserve champion Southdown buckle will be furnished by Wimberley FFA alumni. The breed champions and reserve breed champions in all divisions will need to go to the test barn. They are drawing blood, so it doesn't take long to get that done. So when you get through with your division, if you want to go over and get that done before the grand drive, that'll be great.
I think another good class here in our heavier weight ones, maybe just getting up there a little in terms of condition and not quite as fresh and youthful in how they look and are handling, but I think still one on the top end. Just that one's build and her power definitely needs to go ahead and start. And I think for this size, still holding it together really good in terms of her chest floor. I think that sheep just absolutely has to win this particular group. The one coming next, I think, is the next best in terms of cutability and balance from the side. The sheep needs just a shot more flank relative to our class winner. He doesn't have the same dimension and width that when we get him behind him as what we see in our class winner. But I like that sheep's top line, and I like his freshness up high. Young lady coming next has got a little bigger outline, bigger frame kind of sheep, and I think that works to his advantage. He's not quite as soft over his forerib as what we see behind him. He's not quite as fresh and expressive up high as what we see right in front of him. That sheep needs to be just a little bit stretched out more and help him balance better, but I think that one's a little better in his forerib than the sheep right behind him and just doesn't have quite as much width and mass when we get him behind him as those first two. Young lady in the green has one that was a little tough to show. Right here, this is a good look at that sheep. Really good in his top line, level out of his hip. I like the set he's got to his back leg. We needed to freshen him up over his forerib and make that one handle just a little bit better. Young man's gonna round out our top five here with one that's really long and extended. I like that one's neck attachment. He gets a little bit deep through his the front third of his body, gets a little too round out of his hip. Relative to those first four, that sheep needs a bit more width and a little bit more power as well. A good class of them there and a nice place to start. Congratulations to those kids.
Okay, results of Class 3 Southdowns. 5th place, Ernest Brown, Dripping Springs FFA. 4th place, Sarah Lamb, Dripping Springs FFA. 3rd place, Gus Fredenberg, Dripping Springs 4-H. 2nd place, Nicandro Quintanilla, San Marcos FFA. And your class winner out of Class 3 Southdowns, Megan Hernandez from Buda 4-H. At this time, we need the first place lambs out of Class 1, which is Tate Steinecke. The first place lamb out of Class 2, which is Garrett Fee. And we need Megan Hernandez out of Class 3. Back as your first place lambs in Southdown Division. Your second place lambs coming back for the drive will be J.W. Hernandez out of Class 1, Isabella Villas out of Class 2, and Nicandro Quintanilla out of Class 3. This will be first call. First call for Fine Wools Class 1. First call, Class 1 Fine Wools.
I think a really good set of Southdowns, and I think certainly kind of setting the tone for what I'd typically like to see in each and every breed drive. Just those first three coming at me as they enter the gate are just really wide. They're genuine in their forerib and their rib cage. They got the right kind of width as they leave you, and I think all three of those sheep still balance and proportion pretty well. Out of that lightweight class, a pair of them there I thought was pretty close. One on this side just balances a bit better for me in his underline. I could still get a little picky on that guy out of his hip. If we could just square him up a little in his dock, I think that makes him even better. But for a little guy, that one is awful good looking and good built, and it has a really good handle. Sheep that was second to him, just a little bit up in her flank, just a little bit rounder out of her hip. Really good on the handle as well, though. I like that one's forerib. I like that one's chest width as well. Out of that second class, Weather there, I was a little picky on his hip and his rear leg. I wish we could just stretch him out and make him drive forward a bit more, because that one is pretty good looking. The front 2/3 of his body, I think, are really proportional. A sheep that's round in his forerib and still bowled up high. Just need to make him relax in his top line and square him up in his dock ever so slightly. One that was second to him there. Other than that sheep kind of tapering to his base and getting a little too flat in his body, that one has an awful good look from the side. I think he's got good shape up high and a great balanced, attractive kind of look, just not quite enough sheep there when we get in behind him. Young lady's ewe lamb that won that third class, just really balanced. Everything fits together, very proportional. She is a stout and powerful kind of sheep that I think still runs uphill, still good neck, still fresh enough for me, still youthful enough through the lower third of her body. I like that sheep quite a bit, especially in motion too. I like how she uses her rear leg. The one that was second to her, just not quite as much, right? A well-balanced kind of sheep, still has some squareness and some expression, just not quite as much dimension, not quite as much power. I think there's a really good set of them out here. I'm going to go show you my two favorites. That'll be your champion and reserve. Please give these exhibitors a big round of applause in your Southdown drive.
Champion Southdown. Champion Southdown goes to Megan Hernandez. Reserve champion Southdown goes to Tate Steinecke. Congratulations, exhibitors. This will be second call for Fine Wools Class 1. We have two fine wools in Class 1, ranging in weight from 124 to 127. This will be first call for Class 2 fine wools. First call for Class 2 fine wools. We only have two fine wools in this class. We have two fine wools in Class 2. This will be second call for Class 2 fine wools. Second call, Class 2 fine wools.
A good pair of lightweight fine wools here. I think one up front, when we turn them on a rear view, I just like that one's squareness out of his dock, the squareness to his hock, and the width as he goes to the ground here from the side. I think that one's just a little bit shallower and more athletic in his lower body. A sheep that's really round in his forerib and fresh in his shape up high. Young Man's Weather in second. That one's really tall fronted. I love that he runs uphill. He's got a great neck attachment, really extended up ahead of his shoulder. He too is pretty fresh. When you put your hands on him, I didn't read him to be quite as square out of his dock. I don't think he's quite as square as we get right in behind him. Maybe a little flatter in terms of how he assembles his forerib relative to this class winner. But a nice pair of sheep there. Congratulations to both of those exhibitors.
This will be last call for Class 2 Fine Wools. Last call, Class 2 Fine Wools. Results of Class 1 Fine Wools. Second place, Dane Duggar, Wimberley FFA, and your class winner, Marlena De La Rosa Moore from Buda 4-H Club. Congratulations, exhibitors.
I think a little closer pair here in this particular class, just really different kinds of sheep. Our class winner's really stout. He's really rugged at the ground. He's really big in his forearm and opened up through his chest floor. Extra bold and dimensional when you put your hands on him. Here from the side, I like that sheep's top line. I like the top side of his shoulder. He gets pretty deep through his chest floor for me. I wish we could pick him up and balance his underline just a little bit better. I think relative to the one right behind him, he too could be just a shot better in terms of his neck and his extension in that regard. But we get on a 3/4 view, there's just a lot more sheep there in terms of pin set. He's got more depth to his twist, more shape to the outer portion of his leg to go ahead and start. Young lady sheep in second. When we get him stopped here from the side, he's my favorite from this spot. I like that he's so tall fronted and so good in his neck. At least a little better through his underline, in my opinion, a little better through his chest floor. That sheep still handles with a lot of shape and expression of muscle up high. He's just not as bulky, not as dimensional, not as wide all the way through. A good pair of sheep, though, to discuss. Please give those kids a round of applause.
Results of Class 2 Fine Wools. In second place, Claire Bynum from Dripping Springs FFA, and your class winner, Barrett Collins from Dripping Springs 4-H. We'll now bring all 4 fine wools back into the ring for the champion fine wool and reserve champion fine wool. Drive. And this will be first call for Class 1 fine wool crosses. First call, Class 1 fine wool crosses.
Again, I think a high quality breed drive. 4 sheep that are all got some good parts and pieces. I think their handling quality in particular is really good on all 4 of them. Out of that lighter weight class, I think we got a sheep on the front line I thought was pretty high quality in his look from the side. I liked that one's forerib and his just extension in the front third of his body. A sheep, when we get his back flat, that one has a really good look from the profile. I like his hip and how he uses his hind leg. At least as we stand him here, just his posture. One that was second to him, I don't read that one quite as high quality through his underline, not quite as high quality in terms of his handle, but one that's really, really good in terms of his lines and levelness down his top line. A really extended, big frame kind of sheep. Out of the heavier weight class, a stouter one on this side, maybe a little more extended one on the other side. And I thought this young man's class winner needs to be better in his chest floor. He definitely needs to be reorganized in that regard. But one on a 3/4 view, you got to like that one's pin width. You got to like his dimension. You got to like that one's handle as well. Young lady's weather needs to be dropped down in his top line just a little bit, and particularly in motion. But I like him here from the side in terms of his lines and his levelness. Still has some squareness and some shape up high, not quite as wide, not quite as dimensional. Really different kinds out here, honestly, and certainly our class winners are very different kinds. I'll show you the 2 that hit me the hardest and were my favorites in the order that they were. Please give your final exhibitors a round of applause.
This will be last call for Class 1 fine wool crosses. Last call, fine wool crosses. Results, your champion Southdown goes to Marlena De La Rosa Moore, and your reserve champion goes to Barrett Collins. Congratulations. Okay, we need Graceland Bach. Graceland Bach for fine wool cross class 1. Graceland Bach. Class 1 fine wool crosses are entering the ring at this time. They range in weight from 121 to 132. This will be first call for Class 2 fine wool crosses. First call, Class 2 fine wool crosses. Betty Knock. Betty Knock. If you're missing your debit card, I know where it's at. If you'll come get it, you can have it, or if you'll give me your pen, we'll settle things up. Betty Knock, I have your debit card up here at the announcer stand. This will be second call for fine wool crosses. Second call for Class 2 fine wool crosses.
I think a good class of crosses here. One on the front end, though. When that one comes in, he just hit me a little harder in terms of his quality look and build here from the side. We get our hands on that sheep, and I think he's really green, and he still needs to have just a little more on him. But he's ripped up right behind his shoulder. He's good in his shape and his expression of muscle. Wish he was a little bigger in his loin edge and just blended a little bit smooth. I really like that one's tall-shouldered, extended look up ahead of it. He is really big in his cage. He's bigger in his edge and his loin edge than what we saw in our class winner. I just want that sheep to blend together a little bit better. He gets a little deeper and plainer through the lower third of his body. He needs more feature and more leg wool to help him balance and blend everything together just a little bit better. But when we get on a three-quarter view, I really like that one's pin set. I like his depth to his twist and the shape he's got to the outer portion of his leg. 1 and 3 is just a little bit farther behind. He's not quite there yet in terms of condition. He's obviously the greenest of the trio. A sheep that's still tall-fronted, still really good necked and really fresh. He's just got to have a little more on him, a little more width when we get him behind him. A good class of 3 there. Please give those kids a round of applause.
This will be last call for Class 2 fine wool crosses. Last call, fine wool crosses Class 2. Results of fine wool cross Class 3. Third place, Graceland Bach, Wimberley FFA. Second place, Bryn Baldwin, Dripping Springs FFA. And your class winner out of fine wool crosses Class 1, Addison DeMarco, Dripping Springs FFA. We will need first and second place lambs out of that class to come back to the holding pen for the champion fine wool cross drive. We have 3 crosses in this class, Class 2, ranging in weight from 150 to 152. Our champion fine wool buckle today was sponsored by Robin's Closet. Robin Rippey Scott, longtime supporter of the Hays County Show. And your reserve champion fine wool buckle was donated by the Hudson family. Thanks to all those fine supporters that help us sponsor those buckles. We appreciate it.
Another good trio of them here. I think a kind of a logical winner. The longer we look at him, he's the combination sheep, similar to another one in terms of mass and power, and still really attractive in how he's put together from the side. Not quite as square out of his dock, not quite as tall fronted as what we see in our second place weather, but he has a lot more width when we step in behind him. He's got a lot more dimension down the top side of his skeleton. Sheep in 2 is one I really like propped up, standing still. I like how tall-shouldered and elevated he is up front. His chest to flank balances really, really well, and he is really fresh when you put your hands on him, really expressive to that regard. I just wish there was more sheep there. I think he's flatter through his forerib. We get right in behind him. I read him a little narrower out of his dock, not quite as deep in his twist and as expressive from behind as what we got on that first one, but one that's got an awful good look there from the side. Young man in 3's got one that's just a little stouter and a little more rugged in his build, and I like that about him. He's bold in his cage. He's really big in his loin edge. He just gets plainer, not quite as attractive in how he's put together here from the profile. We need to lengthen him out just a little bit, shallow him up through his chest, but a good sheep there as well to be 3. Please give those kids a round of applause. They're doing a great job.
Results of Class 2 fine wool crosses. Third place, Nicandro Quintanilla, San Marcos FFA. Second place, Megan Hernandez, Buda 4-H. And your class winner from Dripping Springs FFA, Megan McClellan. At this time, we will have our fine wool cross champion drive. We will need the first and second place lambs out of Class 1 and 2. That would be Class 1 would be Addison DeMarco. And in first place out of Class 2 will be Megan McClellan. Second place out of Class 1 crosses is Bryn Baldwin. And second place out of Class 2 fine wool crosses is Megan Hernandez. They will come back to the ring for the champion fine wool cross drive. And this will be Bryn Baldwin. We need you back to the check-in station. Bryn Baldwin, please report to the check-in station for the fine wool cross champion drive. This will be first call for Class 1 Dorpers. First call, Class 1 Dorpers. Betty Knock. Betty Knock, I still have your debit card up here at the announcer's stand. Betty Knock. This will be second call, Class 1 Dorpers. Second call, Class 1 Dorpers.
In our little group of crosses here, I thought those 2 out of the first class really different in terms of type and kind, but do complement each other. A class winner I like in motion and here from the profile really well. That one's got a really good grooved up rack shape laid in him. He needs to be a little bigger and smoother in his loin edge and just a little smoother in all of his transitions, but a sheep I like a lot from the profile. One that was second to him, really bold in his rib, really big up high, really dimensional from behind, not as attractive here from the side. And then that heavier weight pair we just got done talking about, one on this side I just think is a good combination of having the right just forearm and density down low and still being really big pin when we get in behind him. And yet when we back off on the side, still a tall fronted, pretty well balanced kind of sheep. One that was second to him, a really attractive standing still here from the side. Needs to move a little freer on his rear too. Needs to be a little bit more dimensional right from behind relative to that class winner. Those 2 heavyweights were my favorite. They're going to go ahead and be your champion in reserve. Please give these young ladies a round of applause.
Champion fine wool cross goes to Megan McClellan from Dripping Springs FFA, and your reserve champion fine wool cross goes to Megan Hernandez, Buda 4-H Club. Congratulations. Tate Steinecke, we need you for your Dorper class. Tate Steinecke, Dorper class 1, come to the change. The champion fine wool lacrosse buckle today was donated by Giesen Tile. And your reserve champion fine wool lacrosse belt buckle was donated by Ben and Terry Brown. Thanks much to those supporters. We appreciate their support. There are five head in this Class 1 Dorpers, ranging in weight from 88 to 95. This will be first call, Class 2 Dorpers. First call, Class 2 Dorpers. This will be second call, Class 2 Dorpers.
I think a very competitive group of 5 as we get started in this Dorper division. Certainly one up front from a chest view or in behind them. You got to go ahead and find that one pretty quickly. My question on them on that one is he just a little bit too big in his breastbone and his shoulder? Is he just quite smooth enough down his top line? I think in this particular class of him, he's just too big in his pin set. He's too expressive in his handle not to go ahead and start that one. The 1 and 2 is a little flatter and smoother about how she lays in her shoulder. She's a bit more elevated at the base of her chest floor, really extended up ahead of it. I like her balance and her look from the side. That sheep still is bold in her forerib. She's still got good handling quality, not near the mass and dimension what we see in that sheep right in front of her. Young man's got a good sheep here in third as well. I like this one's top line, how level and just square that one is out of his dock. He too is still really extended up ahead of his shoulder. He gets a little deeper and plainer through the lower third of his body. He gets a little softer on the handle relative to those first two. Not quite as much expression, but a sheep that's still, I think, a little higher cutability than the pair that comes next. The young lady sheep in 4, I like that one in motion just a little better. He collects himself better in his top line and just looks a little better than he does standing still. And in motion, I think you read that sheep pretty high quality in his build, still really square when we get in behind him. He gets a little softer over his forerib. He gets a little plainer in his touch. Young man here in the 5th spot here, one that when we get her put together, she is really long-bodied and got a good look from the side. I read her to be a little deviation there in terms of her top line, a little rounder and more up under herself as we ask her to move. My bigger issue with her is when we put them on the handle, although she's bold and dimensional over her cage, she's easily the softest to the touch, needs to be more aggressive in her shape. A good class of 5 there. Please give those kids a round of applause.
This will be last call, Class 2 Dorpers. Last call, Class 2 Dorpers. Results of Class 1 Dorpers. 5th place, Whitley Henry, Dripping Springs 4H. 4th place, Heidi Bentley, Wimberley 4H. 3rd place, Elisha Bentley, Wimberley 4H. 2nd place, Savannah Scott, Dripping Springs FFA. And your class winner out of Class 1 Dorpers, Tate Steineke from Wimberley 4H Booster Club. Class 2 Dorpers will be coming in the ring. They range in weight from 101 to 105. 101 to 105. This will be first call, Class 3 Dorpers. First call, Class 3 Dorpers. Please make your way to the holding pen. This will be second call, Class 3 Dorpers. Second call, Class 3 Dorpers.
I think really another good class here, and I think one on the front end that just kind of comes together. I think the combination sheep. That one's really wide and pulled apart through his chest. He's ultra good through his cage. He's really big and fresh down his back. And then we balance really well from the profile. I don't know that he runs uphill quite as good as what we see in that second place ewe lamb, but I like the set to that one's hip, and his dock is really square. The posture which he has as hock is just a little better, I think, than what we see in the one right behind him. Young lady's got a really pretty attractive one here from the side, especially in motion. She walks good. Everything fits together really attractively. And that one is still really big and bold in her upper forehead. She's expressive down the top side of her skeleton. I thought relative to our class winner, we need to be a little bit square in how we use our rear foot and our hock specifically, but a good sheep there. And I think a nice pair up on the top end. The 1 and 3 is just awesome in terms of his shape. You can see from the side, that one has a lot of extras in terms of turn and dimension from behind. A sheep that's really fresh on the handle. I thought relative to those first two, he needs a little more flanked. He needs to better balance in his underline. He gets a little shorter and steeper out of his hip. Not quite as smooth in how he uses his rear leg from the side, but that one is really good in terms of his handling quality. The sheep coming next, I thought this was a little closer pair between these, the ones in 4 and 5. Both of them just a little bit lower cut ability, not quite as fresh and firm and expressive up high as what we have in those first 3 of the pair. I thought the young man's weather was just a bit longer bodied, a bit better down his top line, a little more attractive, if you will, here from the side. Young lady's weather is really bold in the center portion of his body. He's wide when we get in behind him, just not fresh enough, not quite as expressive enough up high, but a good sheep there to stay in 5. Congratulations all those kiddos. They're doing a great job. Please give them a round of applause.
This will be last call, Class 3 Dorpers. Andrew Glanville, we need your Dorper up for Class 3. Andrew Glanville, Wimberley 4-H. Last call, Class 3 Dorpers. Results of Class 2 Dorpers. 5th place, Pearl Verdon, Wimberley 4-H. 4th place, Elisha Bentley, Wimberley 4-H. 3rd place, Brinley Davey, Buda 4-H. 2nd place, Anaya Bynum, Johnson FFA. And your class winner out of Dorper's Class 2 is Lawson Henry from Dripping Springs 4-H Club. Andrew Glanville, Wimberley 4-H, we need you. Andrew Glanville, if anybody knows where he's at or if he's not here, let us know. There are 5 entries in Class 3, ranging in weight from 113 to 118. This will be first call, Class 4 Dorpers. First call, Class 4 Dorpers. This will be second call, Class 4 Dorpers. Second call, Class 4 Dorpers.
I think this is a little interesting class here, and I'm sure whichever one you have, you probably think needs to be moved around a little bit, and that's perfectly fine. The one for me that has to start in terms of chest width, freshness to his handle and his hide, his forearm shape, and still having a great look here from the profile is going to go ahead and do so. And especially in motion, I think that sheep collects himself really well in his top line and how he uses his rear leg. When we get on a three-quarter view, though, and start looking at the sheep, he's certainly unrivaled in here in terms of body shape and mass and shape up high. The one in second is the one you stand right here, and you like that that one runs uphill and looks like a show sheep. He's too handles with some freshness and some squareness right in behind his shoulder. He's got a good loin edge laid in him. He doesn't have near the width, near the dimension, near the shallowness through the lower third of his body as what we see in that first place whether. We get right in behind him. I really want to square him up in his hock. He really wants to hock in a little and taper towards this base as we go down toward the ground. The 1 and 3, I think that's one you really like how big he is in his outline, a really tall-shouldered, long-neck kind of sheep. He is awesome in terms of his bubbly muscles. We just need it all to blend a little bit better. That sheep's too rough in his transitions. He gets too round out of his hip. He looks green out here in this class. He needs a little more condition to help everything blend and fit together better, at least in my opinion. But there's still more product there, and there's still more shape and expression of muscle than the one that comes next. The sheep in 4 is one I like a little better here from his side. That one's just a little more solid in terms of his balance and his eye appeal. I like that one's build a little bit better than the one right in front of him. That sheep's just too soft handling. He's too plain muscled up high. We got to have a little more shape and a little more expression in order for him to move on up. But interesting class there. Please give those kids a round of applause.
This will be last call, Class 4 Dorpers. Last call, Class 4 Dorpers. Results of Class 3. 4th place, Trent Henry, Dripping Springs 4-H. 3rd place, Brooke Dossey, Jack Hayes, FFA. 2nd place, Megan Hernandez, Buda 4-H. And your class winner, Kylie Davey, Buda 4-H. Congratulations, winners. At the conclusion of Class 4, we will need the 1st and 2nd place Dorpers back out of Class 1, 2, 3 to come back to the ring for the champion Dorper Drive. Class 4 Dorpers are entering the ring. We've got 5 entries in this class ranging from 123 to 152. We will need Tate Steinecke and Savannah Scott back to the holding pen. Lawson Henry and Anaya Bynum. And Kylie Davey and Megan Hernandez back to the holding pen for the Champion Dorper Drive.
Getting a little bit bigger in terms of size and weight, and in this particular group of them, freshness and youthfulness up front is going to go ahead and sort our winner pretty quick. I like that one's handle down the top side of his skeleton really well. And then here from the side, I think that's still a pretty well-balanced sheep. I wish he'd drive a little farther forward. I think that helped the set to his hock just a little bit and help it balance better. But that's a pretty good sheep to go ahead and start. I think it's a little bit closer for me between 2 and 3. And the sheep in second is really big. He's getting up there in size. That's a very big Dorper wether. And yet still, I think that one's pretty good in his underline. He still balances really well. He's got the right kind of look here from the side. And I thought he was just a little bit trimmer over his forerib than the one that comes next. I wish we could freshen him up, though, in his shape and his expression of muscle up high, especially relative to our class winner. But a sheep, I like his balance and I like his eye appeal. The one coming in 3, I thought about a switch here because this one is really big in his loin edge. He's very bold in his cage. He's very dimensional up high, but he too still needs to be shaped up and a little more aggressive in terms of a turn of his rack shape. He needs to be firmer over his forerib. If we can make that one handle a little better, I think he more closely matches our class winner in terms of shallowness through his chest floor and just his look here from the profile. The pair that comes next, I thought the young lady's wether in 4th here was just a little bigger in his loin edge and a little bit square pinned when we get right in behind him. He gets a little too loose there right behind his shoulder, a little deeper through his chest floor. Needs to be better looking through the front third of his body, but a really big back one still to be in that spot. The 1 in 5 is really bold in his cage, really deep and soft through his flank. He needs to be taller fronted and more extended up ahead of his shoulder. He too needs to be a little more shapely when we put our hands on him. A good set of sheep there. Please congratulate those kids for a job well done.
Results of Class 4 Dorpers. 5th place, Blakely Stotler, Wimberley 4-H. 4th place, Savannah Scott, Dripping Springs FFA. 3rd place, Easton Davey, Buda 4-H. 2nd place, Caden Garcia, Jack C. Hayes FFA. And your class winner out of Class 4 Dorpers, Kylie Davey from Buda 4-H. At this time, we will need the 1st and 2nd place lambs back from all 4 classes for the Champion Dorper Drive and Reserve Champion Dorper Drive. And this will be first call for Class 1 medium wools. First call, Class 1 medium wools. Out of Class 1, we have Tate Steinecke. Out of Class 2, we have Lawson Henry. Out of Class 3, we have Kylie Davey. And out of Class 4, we have Kylie Davey. 2nd place lambs out of Class 1, Savannah Scott. Anaya Bynum's out of Class 2. Megan Hernandez out of Class 3. And Caden Garcia out of Class 4. This is your champion Dorper Drive. And our champion Dorper Buckle today is sponsored by the Barbie Ranch, Shane Barbie and the Barbie Ranch. And the reserve champion Dorper Buckle is also sponsored by the Barbie Ranch. Thanks to Shane and his family over there for furnishing those buckles. This will be second call for Class 1 medium wools. Second call, Class 1 medium wools.
Really a deep set of Dorpers that we sorted through, and I think 8 really nice sheep that come back out here. I'm going to discuss the front line here. I think that's kind of what it comes down to in terms of contention for your champion in reserve. Young man with the lightweight, a power sheep that won that class, really fresh and good up high in terms of his handle. He's a little questionable to me in terms of his shoulder, his chest floor, and just his top line too. When we get right back behind his shoulder and out of his hip, he's not the best looking, most attractive one we have out here, but I really love that one's forerib. I love that one's touch. I love his squareness when we get right in behind him. The one that won that second class, kind of a combination sheep to me. I think he's really good coming at you and going right away. Really wide and pulled apart in that regard. A sheep that's extra fresh up high again and good in terms of his forerib. He can still give you a really high quality kind of look. A little smoother and everything fits together on him, maybe a little better than the one right in front of him. And I do like the set to his rear leg and how he uses it in motion a bit better than the sheep that come next behind him. The one that won that third class, just really fresh. I like that one's pin width when we get in behind him and his squareness, specifically through his hock. But then from there forward, awesome in terms of his handling quality. Really a tall fronted, extended kind of sheep up ahead of his neck. I really want to change that one in motion as we go off his rear too. He just gets a little rounder out of his hip and a little more underneath himself in the set to his hock. And I wish we could just place it farther back behind him, but I like that one's handle quite a bit. A similar sheep to him, I think, in terms of type and kind that won our heavyweight class, probably a little longer down his top line, a little bit leveler down his top line and out of his hip than what we saw in that one right in front of him. I too think that one's really fresh and youthful up through the front third of his body and still very aggressive in his shape up high and very good to the touch as well. Honestly, I think it kind of comes down to a pair of them, and I think it's pretty logical. That young man out of Class 2 had one of my favorites. He's going to be your champion. Young man out of Class 4 is going to have your reserve.
Your champion Dorper goes to Lawson Henry out of Class 2, and reserve goes to Kylie Davey out of Class 3. Congratulations to those exhibitors. Class 4, I'm sorry. Same lady, just different lamb. Operator error. This will be second call for Class 1 medium wools. Second call, Class 1 medium wools.
Another quick word of appreciation before we get into our final class. Heart of Texas Propane, Southwest Erectors, Hays County Texas Farm Bureau, big supporters of the Hays County Stock Show. Republic of Texas Tailgate, Wright Farrier Services, Capital Farm Credit, Odell Excavation and Equipment, Specified Water Systems, and Bobcat of Buda. Let's get back to it.
Class 1 medium wool is entering the ring. We have 7 entries in that class, ranging in weight from 109 to 127. 109 to 127. This will be first call for Class 2 medium wolves. First call, Class 2 medium wolves. This will be second call, Class 2 medium wolves. Second call, Class 2 medium wool. Please remember, if you have a division winner or a breed champion or a reserve breed champion, you must go to the test barn and let them bleed the animal. So please, if you have a breed or reserve breed champion, go to the test barn. Thank you.
Quite an interesting trio of them up here, and they all have things that I think are class leading and have the advantage, and they all have things that I really want to change about them. The one I'm going to land on, I think in motion, the front half of that sheep works the best, and she complements a really good body shape with still being wide and square out of her pin set, still being pried apart through her chest floor. Everything balances on her just a shot better than it does the two sheep right behind her. With that said, I think she gets a little long in her dock. She gets a little softer in her handle than the two right behind her. Not as aggressive in her shape up high, but that's still a really powerful, dimensional kind of sheep. My personal opinion, she balances much better than the two that come next. The one in second, that's the stout one. Now does the really big backed, really fresh handling girl. When we get in behind her, huge inner pin set, got a ton of extra turn and shape to the outer portion of her leg. The front half of that sheep, I just don't like. I just think she's too straight fronted. She's over in her knee. She's really low in her neck attachment, wants to run downhill a little bit too much for me. If we could get her stretched forward, I think the back half of that sheep still balances good enough, and her muscle and her shape is really, really good. But the front half is where I take issue. I still think off either end of her skeleton, that one's just a shot more genuine and pried apart all the way through than the one that lands in three. This wether in third, I could start him from right here. I love his feature. I love his shag. I love his extension. He's tall-shouldered. He's really level and flat-backed. We get him propped up and handle him. I like that sheep quite well. We get in front of him. I think he's still good enough through his chest floor. My issue is when we go right about to here, and that's the narrowest hipped one, and he really tapers too hard to his base for me. I want to pry him apart and just square him up on how he uses his hock and his rear leg, and I could go ahead and start the class with that one because he does have some class-leading advantages. The one that lands in four is one I really like here from the side, and as we ask him to go, I think she's the best built one in the class. Just in terms of her angles to her skeleton, how she moves structurally is all very, very good. There's just not near as much sheep as there is right in those three in front of her. She's narrower through her chest floor and just plainer in terms of her handling quality, but a really pretty attractive kind of sheep there from the side. Of the bottom trio, this next one has just the most body. She's got the most softness to her flank, and she balances the best and fits together the best of the bottom trio. Relative to those first ones, though, again, still got to have more shape, still got to have more pin width when we get in behind her. A good class there, an interesting top three. Please give those kids a round of applause. They've been working hard at it.
This will be last call for Class 2 medium bulls. Last call, Class 2 medium bulls. Results of Class 1. 7th place, Hoya Salinas, Wimberley FFA. 6th place, Bailey Wright, Wimberley 4H. 5th place, Hoya Salinas, Wimberley FFA. 4th place, Penelope Soto, Buda 4H. 3rd place, Brooke Dossie, Jack Hayes FFA. 2nd place, Tate Steinecke, Wimberley 4H. And your class winner out of medium bull Class 1, Dane Duggar, Wimberley FFA. Class 2 is entering the ring. There's 9 entries in this class, ranging in weight from 128 to 135. This will be first call, Class 3 medium bulls. First call, Class 3 medium bulls. This will be second call, Class 3 medium wools. Second call, Class 3 medium wools.
Quality look and build and freshness goes ahead and finds this one pretty quick. I like that sheep a lot, coming and going. He's really pried apart. He's really wide and square from behind, and yet still a sheep that's elevated at the top side of his shoulder. He's picked up in his chest floor. He's round in his forerib. Got a really attractive kind of look. The one coming next is most similar to him in terms of quality, look, and build from the profile. We get right behind that sheep, and he's not near as big in his pin set. He's not near as dimensional as we go towards the ground. I wish we had a little more width all the way down on this wether here in 2, but his look and from the profile, it needs to go ahead and stay second. The one coming 3 has got great shape up high. I love that one's back shape, and still his neck attachment and his top line lays in him pretty good. Relative to the 2 sheep in front of him, we got to have more flank, we got to have more length, we got to have a little more sheep every which direction. Young man's got another blue wether here in 4 that's really bold in his forerib and his rib cage. He's really dimensional down the top side of his skeleton, not quite as attractive in how he puts it together here from the side. We get right in behind that wether. I want to square him up in how he uses his hock. He just wants to push it a little too far outside himself as he goes right away from you. Young lady's got a really attractive one here that rounds out our top 5. I like that one's look and I like that one's handle. He's just not enough sheep. We got to make that one wider all the way through. He hit me a bit flatter and his forerib a bit narrower from behind. A good class as we work through them. Please give those kids a round of applause.
This will be last call for Class 3 medium wool. Last call, Class 3 medium wools. Results of Class 2. 9th place, Levi Diaz, West San Marcos 4-H. 8th place, Lane Holcomb, Johnson FFA. 7th place, Presley Giesen, Wimberley 4-H. 6th place, Levi Diaz, West San Marcos 4-H. 5th place, Kaylee Knock, Buda 4-H. 4th place, Jonathan Reagan, Dripping Springs FFA. 3rd place, Nicandro Quintanilla, San Marcos FFA. 2nd place, Winston Rains, Dripping Springs 4-H. And your class winner out of Class 2 medium wools is Quincy Rains, Dripping Springs 4-H. Class 3 medium wools will be entering the ring. We have 10 entries in this class, ranging in weight from 139 to 152 pounds. This will be first call for Class 4 medium wools. First call, Class 4 medium wools. This will be second call, Class 4 medium wools. Second call, Class 4 medium wools.
A good class. I think we boil it down to a pair of them, though, that for me have the right kind of touch and shape and expression and still put it on a functional enough build. And I think of the pair propped here from the side, we have one that's just a shot longer bodied, a bit taller at the top side of his shoulder, probably a little longer fronted, in my opinion, as well. And standing still, I like the set to that one's hip and his rear leg pretty good. In motion, I think we run him a little bit too quick. He wants to push deeper in his chest. He doesn't just use his hot quite as well as what I think our sheep does in two. Young man's sheep in second, that one is impressive from a rack shape and loin edge perspective, uber fresh up high and really bold when we get in behind him as well. For him not to get a very just firm and aggressive brace on that sheep, he never touches anything but perfect, really fresh and impressive up high. And still, I think when we get him to pull his neck up and give you a good look, that sheep's still tall fronted. He's still good in his chest floor. Like I said, I like the set to that one's rear leg and how he uses it in motion a bit better than what we see in our class winner. My question on that one is he just long enough? Is he attractive enough? And how he walks around the ring in the front third of his body, I think that's a close pair of awful nice sheep. The one in third, I think, logically fits here for me. We get on a three-quarter view. He's not near as big pinned. He's not near as deep in his twist. He doesn't have near the mass and power of those first two, but it's his build and his attractiveness that I like the best here in this group, better than the two that come next in the lineup. He's a great combination of good built and attractive and still really fresh and really good in his handle. The one coming next, standing still, I could get behind this one. I like his balance. I like how everything fits together. I like his underline. His top line lays in him well. Standing still, I can take the set to that one's rear leg just fine. And up high, I like that one's shape and his expression of muscle plenty good. It's his back leg and his hip design we got to change, particularly when we ask him to go. He really wants to roach up and get high in his loin. He stays up underneath himself and doesn't use his hock and drive it back behind him like the sheep right in front of him does. Young lady in fifth has one that's just a little too deep and a little too plain, a little too soft for me. That one is unbelievably thick. We get off either end, that one is opened up, and he is stout and very, very bold all the way through. I just have to make him handle a little harder. I want to make him taller fronted, want to make him a little better necked. A good class there, an impressive top five. Please give those kids a big round of applause.
This will be last call, Class 4 medium wool. Last call, Class 4 medium wools. Results of Class 3. 10th place, Riley Coco, West San Marcos 4-H. 9th place, Alice Woolery, Jack C. Hayes, FFA. 8th place, Bryn Baldwin, Dripping Springs, FFA. 7th place, Jesse Medlock, Dripping Springs, FFA. 6th place, Penelope Soto, Buda 4-H. 5th place, Morgan Hernandez, Buda 4-H. 4th place, Barrett Collins, Dripping Springs 4-H. 3rd place, Aubrey Chavez, Jack C. Hayes, FFA. 2nd place, Tate Steinecke, Wimberley 4-H. And your class winner out of Class 3 medium wools, Morgan Hernandez, Buda 4-H. Class 4 medium wools will be coming in the ring. This will be our last class of the day. We have 11 entries, ranging in weight from 154 to 167. At the conclusion of this class, we will need the first and second place lambs out of Class 1, 2, and 3 medium wools back to the ring for the champion medium wool drive. Then if you were a breed or reserve breed champion out of the other species, other divisions, please be sure and get ready to come back for the grand drive. Our champion medium wool buckle today is donated by the Steinecke family. And the reserve champion medium wool buckle is donated by Backyard Cowboys Buyers Group. We thank those sponsors for those buckles. We appreciate it. Can't do it without your help. Okay, out of Class 1 medium wools, we need Dane Duggar and Tate Steinecke back to the holding pen. Out of Class 2, we need Quincy Raines and Winston Raines back out of Class 2. Out of Class 3, we'll need Morgan Hernandez and Tate Steinecke. Back to the ring, back to the holding pen for your champion medium wool drive.
I think one that suits me pretty well up on the top end of this class. That one hits the ring and his feet and legs work and they point the right direction. And not only that, but that sheep is really wide up front and going away from you. His hock still stays square. And then we have that look that he comes together with from the profile. The handle that he's got is second to really none of them in this particular group. And I just think that one fits together and fits me really well in terms of type and kind. The one in second, that's kind of a taller shouldered, kind of freakier looking one up through the front third of his body. And I like that about him. I don't think there's near as much width there as there is in the sheep on either side of him. There's not near as much dimension all the way through, but his shape and his handling quality is still very, very good, just not quite as good as what we see in our class winner. One coming in three is just a little different in terms of type and kind. He's a little lower shouldered, he's a little shorter necked, not quite as run uphill and great looking through the front third of his body. Outside of that though, that one's really bold in his cage. He's huge in his loin edge, he's big in his upper hip. Going away from you, I really like that one's view as well. I just want to change the front third of his body. I want to free him up in how he uses his hock in motion. The sheep in four, I think, has some good parts and pieces. Standing still, the front 2/3 of his body, I think, fit together really good. And I want to change his hips slightly as we just need to square him up in his dock there. And I think we fit together just a little bit better. In motion, though, I really want to lay him back in the angle of his front skeleton. And I want to also make that sheep handle with just a shot more punch over his rack relative to those first three. I didn't think there was quite as much sheep. Similar story here for the 1 in 5. I actually really like this one's build, and I like this one's attractiveness, though. Really youthful in the lower third of his body. Very, very fresh in how he presents himself. Just not quite as much sheep off either end, coming or going. He's just more closed up. He's just not as round and as bold and as open in his rib cage. A good sheep, though, to be in 5, and I think a really nice class. Please give all those exhibitors a big round of applause.
All right, results from Class 4 medium wools. 11th place, Addison Newland, Dripping Springs FFA. 10th place, Katie Hartman, Dripping Springs FFA. 9th place, Sarah Lamb, Dripping Springs FFA. 8th place, Haley Robertson, Johnson FFA. 7th place, Kellen Embry, Dripping Springs FFA. 6th place, Haley Robertson, Buda 4-H. 5th place, Barrett Collins, Dripping Springs 4-H. 4th place, Kellen Embry, Dripping Springs FFA. 3rd place, Quincy Rains, Dripping Springs 4-H. 2nd place, Adeline Fee, Dripping Springs 4-H. And your class winner out of Class 4 medium wools, Adeline Fee, Dripping Springs 4-H. We will now go to our champion medium wool drive. We will have first place lamb out of Class 1 will be Dane Duggar. First place lamb from Class 2 will be Quincy Rains. First place lamb from Class 3 will be Morgan Hernandez. And first place lamb out of Class 4 will be Adeline Fee. Coming in the second place line will be Tate Steinecke out of Class 1. Winston Rains out of Class 2. Tate Steinecke out of Class 3. And Adeline Fee out of Class 4. That will be your medium wool drive. If you have a breed or a reserve breed champion, please be making your way to the holding pen for the grand drive. That will be following immediately after the naming of the champion medium wool. Then after the grand drive, we will start with senior showmanship. Senior showmanship after the grand drive.
Really, I've been very impressed with the quality of the medium wools, and I really like the 8 of them that come back out here in each and every class. I thought we found some quality up in the top end, in some classes a whole lot of quality, and so had to be good sheep, but to get to this point for sure. Out of that first class, I thought that was our toughest class and hardest to put together. There was a trio of them in here, and I thought this ewe lamb on the front line was just kind of the combination of good things. She needs to be a little better out of her hip, needs to be a little better out of her rear leg, needs to have a little more shape up high, but body shape and dimension from behind, that sheep's really good in terms of her basics. The one that was second to her really just needs to be changed in the front third of her body. She is awesome in terms of her handling quality, really fresh and expressive up high. Just wanted to redesign her a little up front. One that wins the second class, I thought that one had to win that class, and I really liked that sheep in that class, and for that size and weight, I think that one's pretty good. I like him up front. I like him going away. I think he gets maybe a little shorter in his hip, a little quicker stepping. He really isn't wanting to show right now and show off all the good things I know he's got about him, but awesome in terms of his back shape. Probably a little greener, a little rawer than the 2 sheep that come in right behind him, but really a nice sheep that I think has lots of good parts and pieces. Class winner out of class 3. I thought that was a nice close pair. This one's just got a shot more length of body, a shot more look through the front third of his body. Young lady does a really good job putting him together. I like that one's handle. I don't know if he's just as aggressive as a few others I've handled, but he's so fresh and so youthful still through the lower third of his body. When we ask him to go, I want to be a little picky on his rear leg, but that's being pretty critical because the front 2/3 of that sheep I think are plenty sound, plenty attractive enough, and a very nice sheep that won that class. One that wins our last class, I kind of said there, that one's kind of my type and kind. I like how he's built. I like how he looks on any end, off either direction. I think that one's just a really solid kind of sheep. To get to that point in size and weight, still be that fresh up through his chest for and that attractive up ahead of his shoulder, and to have that kind of mass and power and freshness up high, that's a lot of things I like to see together. I'm going to go show you the 2 I like in the medium wools. Please give these exhibitors a round of applause.
Your champion medium wool goes to Adeline Fee from Dripping Springs FFA. Your reserve champion comes out of class 3. Morgan Hernandez is your reserve champion medium wool. Congratulations, exhibitors. We will now go to our grand champion overall drive. So if you, we need your champion Southdown and reserve champion Southdown, your champion and reserve champion Fine Wool, your champion reserve champion Cross, your champion and reserve champion Dorper, and then your champion and reserve champion Medium Wools. If you would, please, let's put your hands together and thank Miss Sierra Norman for coming out today and braving the bitter cold as we all have today and taking care of our Sheep Show. We certainly appreciate her coming down from Mason, Texas, and starting our sheep. Your grand champion lineup and your Southdown breed champion is Megan Hernandez. Your fine wool breed champion is Marlena De La Rosa Moore. Your fine wool cross is exhibited by Megan McClellan. Your champion Dorper is exhibited by Lawson Henry. And your medium wool champion is by Miss Adeline Fee. Your reserve breed Southdown is Tate Steinecke. Your reserve fine wool is Barrett Collins. Your reserve fine wool cross is Megan Hernandez. Your reserve champion Dorper is Kylie Davey. And your reserve champion medium wool is Morgan Hernandez. So let's put your hands together for these kiddos for a great afternoon.
Certainly has exceeded my expectations for the quality of the show we've had in the sheep ring here, and I knew that the goats would be about what I expected. They were kind of on track, and I've been really impressed with the depth in the sheep show in particular. The kids have been really great, and I appreciate the opportunity to come work with them and sort through the livestock. It's been a fun day for me, so thank you all for having me, and thanks to each and every one of you volunteers are standing out in the cold and making this happen for all of these kids. I hope you show families appreciate those people, appreciate the donors, appreciate the people that you're hoping are going to come to the auction and support your kids at the county show level. I'm not going to go through and talk about each and every one of them. I've discussed them at pretty great length today as we've gone through them, and I'm looking forward to working through our showmanships here in just a minute. But I'll leave you with just a few words of encouragement. If you weren't excited with how you ended up today, that does not define you or your success as a sheep showman. So just keep your head up and keep working and go on down the road and make yourself better, improve where you can, and try not to get defeated by one judge or one person's opinion on any given day. I can assure you, my opinion may be different tomorrow. If we had to come back tomorrow and line them up exactly the same, I don't think I could do it, to be completely honest with you. There's a lot of differences, and so they're really just hitting me at one moment in time, and that's just my opinion. The next judge can have a totally different one. So keep your head down and keep working. I know for a lot of y'all, this isn't your last stop on down the road. You're going to have another show or a few shows this spring, and so I wish you the best of luck as you go on down the road. And for those of you that are, this is your end game, this is your end show, I commend you on the hard work you've put in thus far, and certainly I had a good set of sheep to work through and an even better set of kids. So I'm going to put the mic down and go show you my grand and reserve. Please give all these kids a really big round of applause. They've stuck with it on a really cold and miserable day.
Your grand champion lamb for 2025 goes to Addie Fee. Reserve champion goes to Morgan Hernandez. Congratulations to all of you exhibitors. A great afternoon. We will now start our senior showmanship. Senior showmanship. Your grand champion market lamb buckle today was presented by Barbie Ranch with Shane Barbie presenting. Reserve champion market lamb was Barbie Ranch also. Thank you to Barbie the Ranch for the buckle sponsorships. This will be first call for intermediate showmanship. First call, intermediate showmanship.
A really deep and a very high quality set of senior sheep showmen. I kind of said in the goat showmanship earlier, if you were around, I really don't care if they can show them on the wrong side. I'm not going to ask them to do that. All I really care about is, do they consistently put them together the same way every time? Do they always make them look good? And there's been a couple of them that have done that throughout the duration of the show. I'm going to point out a few of them and just kind of talk through some of the differences I see. Young lady here, the second to last one in the navy sweater here, she's got a really good eye contact, ring presence, and intensity. see, that sheep's always pretty close in terms of feet and leg placement, always keeps his top line laid in him good. I want to see her keep that sheep's nose just a bit more in line for me. He kind of wants to S-curve every once in a while, and I'm not sure that she's just the most consistent on setting legs perfectly, but close enough is sometimes close enough, and she does a very good job of that. I thought the young man with the fine wool was very consistent the whole time he showed sheep today, and he showed a pile of them. I never saw him make one look bad. Feet and legs are always close. He gets in front with his body positioning. I think relative to a few others, and maybe my personal preference, I want to see him get a little more out of their neck and front end, particularly with this sheep, than a few others he showed, but that's being pretty picky on a very nice showman. The young lady in the pink directly in front of me, again, incredibly solid. As the day goes on, just can't make one look bad, always does a good job keeping them put together. Again, my personal preference, and I think it's probably partially this sheep, but I'd like to see his neck come up and forward just a shot more on that guy, because he does have a good neck, and I want to see a little more of it. And then the young lady in the black jacket here up on the front end, I thought is just very solid as well. Again, that sheep's pretty easy to put together, and she does it consistently the same way every single time. Always has a good look, always has feet and legs where they need to be. I liked her hand placement and how she controls his head and neck both in motion and here from the side. The best of this particular group. She's going to be your champion showman. Please give her a big round of applause.
Your champion senior showman will be Kellen Embry. Congratulations. Last call, intermediate showmanship. Last call, intermediate showmanship. Our senior showmanship belt buckle is sponsored by the Balboa Memorial Foundation. We appreciate their support, continued support from over the years. Intermediate showman, please get in here and let's go. And then we've got juniors following them. And then if we have any clovers, we'll have them in there. Intermediate showman entering the ring. Juniors be on standby. We've only got 3 in the intermediate division. Then we'll have the juniors, and then we'll have the clovers. Our intermediate showmanship buckle today is sponsored by the Wimberley FFA alumni. Thanks to the Wimberley FFA alumni, we appreciate your support.
Nothing to take away from the young man with the Dorper sheep here. I don't think he's quite on the same level yet in terms of body positioning and ring awareness as these 2 young ladies are. They've been competitive the whole show, and it's no different here in showmanship. I'm going to talk through some of the things that I see between them. Young lady in the rear here, in the middle, excuse me, in the blue sweater there, She did a great job in the front half of the show today. When that sheep was acting good, everything came together right. That was a really good look and a really consistent job setting him up and keeping them all together. As the show goes on, and that one wants to start to have a few issues and not want to show the way that he's supposed to, probably gets a little overly aggressive on him in my mind, at least the way that I like to do things. And I wish we could just calm down, unwind a little bit, take a deep breath, take a step back, and realize that we can make that sheep look good, but we just don't have to hit on him to do so. Young lady in the pink, I think, is just a little bit more calm in every aspect. As we go around the ring, she's a little more laid back. She's a little more in control of that sheep, and I think as we go, even when there's an issue, when I come right in front there, that sheep wants to move around. You're just calm. You just put her back in line and you get her set the way that she needs to be. And I really appreciate that about you. The whole show, I thought you were very consistent, setting feet and legs, keeping head and neck where they need to be. That's a good pair of showmen, a good trio of showmen. This young lady in the pink, though, she's going to be your champion. Please give her a round of applause.
Your champion intermediate showman for 2025 is Megan Hernandez. Congratulations, Megan. We will now go into the junior showmanship. Junior showmanship. Bring them on. Immediately after the juniors, we will have the Clover showmanship. Our junior showmanship buckle today is sponsored by the Balboa Memorial Foundation. Once again, they are big supporters of this show and have been for years.
In this particular group of them, again, a group of kids that have pretty good starts. We got a pretty good control of head and neck. Several of them are already wrapped around in front of the sheep where they need to be to get a good brace out of them. And I have to say, there's one showing on no halter. And not only does he show on no halter, but he walks that sheep really well. He walks her at the right speed. He controls her head and neck where it's supposed to be. I think that just speaks to his confidence and his control over that sheep at all different times. He's also the one that goes back and squares up legs and sets them how they're supposed to be. Always puts that sheep together very appropriately. This young man in the pink in the middle is going to go ahead and be your champion. Please give him a round of applause.
Your 2025 junior showman goes to J.W. Hernandez. Congratulations, J.W. We will now bring in the Clovers, and that will wrap up the show for 2025. Our Clover Showmanship Buckle is sponsored today by the Backyard Cowboy Buyers Group. We want to thank them for their sponsorship of these buckles.
Well, what a way to end our day, as we've had a lot of good kids and a lot of good animals come through the ring, and I think these two might be the cutest two that we've had so far. They've just done an excellent job. I think both of them really aware, for their size and age, really aware of the judge and the ring and knowing what's going on. Both of them, I really appreciate their body positioning, getting in front of those sheep. The difference that sorts the pair for me, and it's really unbearable. Y'all should know that. I don't want to pick a champion because one of them's not going to get anything, and I feel terrible about that. But that's my job. So the difference in the pair for me is that the young man goes back there, we get our legs set as square as we possibly can, we get around in front, and I think he just gets into that sheep a little better. We get a little bit better drive out of him. He's going to be your champion. Young lady would be your reserve if we had one. Please give him a round of applause.
Your Clover Showmanship champion is Tate Steinecke from Wimberley 4-H. Congratulations, Tate.
Grand and reserve sheep to the backdrop. For pictures, please. Grand and reserve sheep to the backdrop. For pictures, please.